Totoo kaya to? Nakakatakot naman kung totoo. Paano kaya malalaman kung katiwa-tiwala ba ang impormasyon sa internet?
Have you seen the problem of Charlie? It is the spread of fake news and not credible information from the internet. It's a common problem that we are facing this era of digital world. And as responsible citizens, it is in our fingertips if we should share or not this kind of false information. Will you join me in helping Charlie evaluate information from the internet and do some challenges? All right. Good day, learners. I am Sir Lau Pasqua, and welcome to another episode of English with Sir Lau. With the current situation we are facing today, where going to libraries and schools are prohibited, people use internet as immediate source of information.
Internet is an electronic communication using interconnected networks which provides variety of information around the world. It can improve the quality of education in many ways.
It is an easy-to-use platform for a wealthy source of information, knowledge, and increasing opportunities for learning beyond the classroom.
Internet is also a convenient doorway to search for information needed for educational researches as a reference and source for learning. However, not all information found in the internet are valid and reliable.
Good thing, there are a number of ways on how to evaluate information from the internet. A thorough evaluation of this information is needed before using it as a source or reference for an educational work. Our topic today is evaluating website source of information.
There are 4 ways on how to evaluate the validity and credibility of sources of information from the internet. These are determining the credibility of the web source, studying the web's domain extension, determining bias, and examining evidences.
The first way to identify the validity of web source is determining its credibility. We do this by looking at the About section of the website.
The About section is usually found on the bottom of the page or site or at the top of its homepage. In this section, the authors or owners of the site are presented. These tells the credibility of the writers in the page, like their educational attainment and achievements or awards.
The About section also tells us the objectives of the page. Sometimes, the About page is also termed as About Us, About this site, and Who we are. Remember that if a website does not have an About section, it is not considered a valid source of information. It is because it's difficult to tell without knowing who are the involved people in this site. That is why always use websites that have an About section and whose authors and owners are of high credibility and achievement. The second way of evaluating validity of a web source is looking at the domain extension of the page.
Domain extension is the last 3 letters of a website that follow the period. The most common domain extension is .com. The domain extension clearly gives us a clue if what type of entity is the website.
There are 4 most used domain extensions in the web. These are .com, .gov, .edu, and .org. .com is a shortened term for commercial. It was first used by commercial and business websites and entities. Later on, this domain opened for general purposes.
In fact, this is the most common domain extension because it's widely used by many entities like schools, non-profit organizations, bloggers, and commercial and business entities. There are times that contents in this domain are biased, especially if it's a business entity that sells product or service. However, .com is also reliable as other print publications like online magazines and newspapers. Examples are www.facebook.com, and www.google.com.
The second one is .gov. .gov is derived from the domain name government. This indicates that this web page is used by government entities. Because of this, .gov is a very good source of information.
.gov is generally considered reliable and non-biased. So every time you use information from this entity, you don't have to worry with its validity because it surely underwent proper process before it was published in their page. Examples are www.deped.gov.ph and www.doh.gov.ph.
.edu is from the word education. From the term itself, we can easily tell who manages this web page. This is used by colleges, universities, private and public schools.
In general, these web pages are valid and reliable sources of information. This type of web page is highly recommended to use as source of information. So the next time you use information from the web, locate for those whose domain extension is .edu. For example, www.pnu.edu and www.isu.edu.
The last domain extension is .org, which is from the word organization. It is used by non-profit groups, issue-focused groups, religious groups, and other types of organizations.
These organizations may be biased towards specific point of view. However, you may identify if this organization is reputable by examining who they are. Just be sure to have a good research on who the people involved in this organization are. Examples are www.wikimedia.org and www.craiglist.org.
Let's proceed to the third way of evaluating a web page as a source of information. This is examining its biases.
Bias is an unfair treatment to a specific issue or people. You can examine if a website is biased after reading their About section. By balancing how they view points in their page, you can tell if they are biased or not.
Remember that being biased does not necessarily mean being an unreliable source of information. As long as they provide evidences for their claims, these sources of information is also valid. Just make sure that the page you use does not degrade parties or organizations. The last way on how to evaluate a web page is examining its evidences. We can do this by looking at citations or references used in the web page. Make sure that the claims from the page are supported by reliable references too. Always see to it also that the information is up to date and sufficiently supported with facts and results of studies. Oh, hi there, Charlie. What seems to be the matter?
Hi, sir. My teacher gave me an assignment to identify whether the information from different situations are valid or not.
Oh, that's easy. Will you join me in helping Charlie to do this challenge? All right, get ready for Charlie the Challenger.
Number 1. Jerry used the internet as a source of information for his assignment about COVID-19. He searched for the official page of World Health Organization to get information. Is this valid or not? Number 2. Tony used Facebook as the source of information for her assignment. He saw a random information about food that can cure COVID-19. Is this valid or not? Number 3. Karen searched in the internet a non-profit organization who favors male dominance over female. She then took an information about the small roles of women as leaders in the society. Is this valid or not? Number 4. Rochelle read from an online article some information related to her research. She read from the website's About section that the authors are PhD graduates and awardees of their field. Is this valid or not? And number 5, Fena was curious about the references of a website she used for her assignment. She found out that the page used professional doctors and psychologists. Is the information valid or not? Now, let's check your answers. Number 1 is valid. Number 2 is invalid. Number 3 is also invalid. Number 4 is valid. And number 5 is also valid.
We are now on the end part of our episode. I hope you learned the importance of using reliable source of information and its validity for use. This is Sir Lau Pascua, reminding you that a person of truthfulness is a person of trust and godliness. Thank you and goodbye.